Good morning, everybody. Dixie here. Um, Still in it. Last night was interesting and a bit sad. I'm a bit just exhausted over everything. Um, Obviously, as you can see from my screen, Quilava was the one who went home. There was apparently some last minute scrambling. Um, Initially, Quilava was pushing for me to go, and I guess wasn't gaining a lot of traction, so tried to turn it around on Nate at the last minute. From what Spyro told me, it sounds like he had some hope that that vote had gained traction. It sounds like Conker and Zag's names were in the mix at a point. So really a complete just chaos scenario. Um, I was in my wine, as you could probably tell from my last confessional, where I was coming at you all a little bit sippy. Um, I feel like it's become a terrible kind of coping mechanism for me um, when I'm stressed. So we're going to need to re examine that relationship. Perhaps not yet, but perhaps post game. Um, Aside from that vice, I'm very healthy. I'm active. But yeah, just my relationship with wine is definitely something that could probably be a little less commonplace. Um, but these games are so stressful. I can't imagine how stressful the actual game is. I guess in a way, I think that it's a trade off, right? Because people literally can't get away from you on the actual show. Whereas over Discord instant message, people can just ignore you, be talking to other people, um, kind of keep you out of the loop. And I definitely felt distance last night in terms of the conversations that were being had. And that's always a frustrating feeling. It's always frustrating knowing that people are expecting honesty from you, but are not necessarily being honest back. So obviously, I think the only person that I've really shared everything with is Aerith at this point. And even with Aerith, there were little things that I've left out, like the entire alliance structure of original Liurnia. Um, Otherwise, though, we've been pretty much in lockstep. And I think that for Aerith, it's been frustrating because she's been struggling to kind of gain her footing. Um, I'm often, I have often been the one coming to her with information. People haven't really been sharing information as much with her. So I've been updating her as I've gotten kind of tidbits from, the Winners Alliance that Daisy formed, to the fact that Spyro Oach and I had a little thing that was going on back on Gelmir. Um, and I think that that felt frustrating for Aerith to be on the precipice of. And I think I've maybe gained a newfound appreciation for that frustration after hearing about this group that she's got going on with Daisy and Zero and Oach. And I don't necessarily expect Daisy or even Ochette to tell me about it, but with Daisy in particular, it's frustrating because she does this thing where she'll basically gaslight you and pretend like you are the problem when she is sitting on so much information. Um, I don't necessarily, I mean, maybe she's convinced herself, but I don't necessarily think that she was innocent in the whole Celestia situation. I believe that Celestia probably helped dig her own grave in some respects, but I just don't think that Daisy is innocent of playing the game, you know? And I think that sometimes she frames things in such a way that it's like, what the hell? And so Daisy is obviously a legend of the game. In fact, with Quilava's departure, she and I are now sole surviving members of original tribes. And then Symmetra has become the sole surviving member of an original season. But for me, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work in a cast of all-stars for her to try and play this game that she's playing. And so I got into it a little with her last night. I shouldn't have, but basically she was repeating Mouse talking points about how it was Gelmir's fault that it became a sides thing at the merge, which I don't believe at all. And I think that's BS, and I'm not going to let somebody sit here and try to make me believe something that's not true. She has just as many relationships with her own tribe as I have with mine. We just voted out somebody from Gelmir. And the fact of the matter is, it might not have been the person that she wanted to see go, but we still voted out a Gelmir. I think it's pretty brazen for her to be like, oh, Dixie, I just feel like you're not being upfront with me. And it's like, well, Daisy, honestly, the reason that I haven't been upfront with you is because I was upfront with you. And then suddenly Nate knew everything that I was telling you. You haven't told me about the fact that Mouse gave you an extra vote. So now you're sitting on 2 extra votes. I know she thinks that I have something from the auction, which I do, and maybe she knows exactly what it is, but honestly, I don't feel like she has earned my trust. And maybe I haven't earned hers, and that's fine, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let somebody make a fool out of me. That is my biggest pet peeve in the game, is somebody trying to manipulate me. And I feel like maybe Conqueror's done a little bit of that too. And mark my words, I might be a member of the jury, but I'm not voting for either of them to win this game. So I'd vote for Nathan over both of them right now. Like, I'm that fucking pissed off. Yeah. Basically, if it's the last thing I do, I will make sure that Daisy does not win this game. And if I'm considered bitter, then so be it. But I'm pretty pissed right now. She has plenty going on. So how dare she tell me that I'm the problem? I'm not going to let somebody gaslight me into thinking that. I definitely messed up a little bit too last night, because basically I intimated to Ochette that I knew about her new alliance with Zero, Daisy, and Aerith. And so Ochette goes and freaks out to Aerith, and then Aerith yells at me. So I may have messed up my position, but I'm just getting to a point where I'm fed up with having people tell me all of this information and then expecting me just to sit calmly and idly while the game happens around me. I'm not comfortable playing that way. If you know anything about me, it's that I'm not somebody that sits idly by and just lets things happen. So if people are going to make plans without me, I'm going to make plans without them. Um, Aerith basically threw Conquer under the bus to Spyro. And I think that's potentially why Zag and Conquer were apparently in it toward deadline last night. We'll see what happens there. I feel like I'm still good with them, so I'll utilize those relationships for as long as I can. I'd still like to see some other people go before they're targeted. In particular, Zag is somebody who hasn't actively done anything to sort of make me feel like I'm in an uncomfortable position. Conquer is a much more proactive player, and a lot of the shit he does has reflected poorly on me, and I'm getting a bit fed up with covering for his ass. I like Conquer as a human, but as a player, I am kind of at my wit's end. This is several times now that he's put me in a position where I've just had to feel anxious and uncomfortable for no real reason, because he just decides to go out and construct this house of cards and talk about how he just loves everybody so much. And I'm sorry, but this is Survivor. You can't just tell everyone that you love them so much and then expect people to just be fine with it. Like, I can tell that Quilava's pissed. Like, he tried to keep it up with Quill. He even tried to keep it up with me in DMs. Like, oh, I love Quill so much, you know? And it's like, well, yes, Quill is a nice person. We know that. But just own the fact that you played him, because you're going to get to the final tribal council, and people are going to be pissed at you. They're not going to want to hear about how it was so hard for you to turn on them. I know I'm not going to respect that if he does that shit with me. So at this point, we'll see what happens. I'm using this as a venting space, and I'm sorry to the people that might be upset if and when they ever listen to this, which will probably be never, because these diatribes just go on and on. But yeah, I'm just kind of fed up. So from here, I'm like, what other options can I explore? And one angle that I think I'm going to try and take is to work with Evie, and see maybe if I can mend that fence and maybe make something happen with Sim. Sim's going to be a tougher nut to crack. I'd also like to work with Spyro, and then continue to work in the little configurations that I have. But yeah, I feel like in the advent of this new Aerith, Daisy, Och, Zero situation, I feel like I'm definitely going to be the sacrificial lamb for Daisy in terms of the winners trio. And I don't feel comfortable just sitting around passively waiting for that to happen or for someone to swoop in and save me. So it's game on. It's pretty much game on. Immunity is interesting. It's the counting one that I actually ended up winning in season 3. Don't have any expectation of winning it again, but I'm going to try my damnedest. I'm planning on heading into my office, even though it's a Saturday, just so that I have a better setup with screens. And that I can, just hopefully be as prepared as I can be. But this one will be interesting. I seem to recall that I got better at it as it went along. I feel like I kind of fell backwards into it in my season, kind of just not being the worst each round until I won the final round. And so I think this could be a tricky one, especially in the middle, with the fact that Yogi's putting in, I guess, some red herring runes. So Morgott and Renala are kind of similar looking. I feel like Rykard and Godric, those runes are pretty distinguishable. And then I think it depends on whether or not the runes look like this or if they're obscured, kind of like they were in that one challenge. I think that a lot of people could be really good at this. Och is going to be at a concert in New York, so it might be tougher for her to beast. But yeah, it would be nice to win immunity and secure my spot. If I don't win, I don't necessarily know that I'll be a target just yet. I think Spyro, if he doesn't win, is going to be on some folks' radar. I think that Zag and Conquer could be on some radars. I think Nate could be an easy vote, but people might want to keep him around for whatever's coming at Final 10. I could see it becoming a Conquer and Zag versus Aerith war at some point. If it gets back to the two of them, that she's kind of the one that basically spilled to Spyro that he was being, basically, he had blinders on for Conquer. But so far that hasn't come to a head, so we'll just have to see what happens. Today's confessional is kind of short and sweet, but I do want to bring up my tier list as I've become accustomed to doing. It's just a standard S through D tier list with some kind of flavor titles. So instead of S, it's stellar. Instead of A tier, it's amazing. Instead of B tier, it's bearable. Instead of C tier, it's can tolerate. And then instead of D tier, it's do not pass go, do not collect $200. And I don't know that this is going to have much bearing on the boot list from here on out, but it's just kind of where I'm at frustrations wise with people. Aerith, I'm going to put in stellar. I do feel bad about kind of being a leaky faucet last night, and I hope that she is able to move past it and know that I can be trusted with information going forward. But that little slip with Och, I think put her in a not optimal spot, so we'll have to see what happens there. I'm just hoping that I haven't completely ruined my position in terms of being able to access knowledge about the game that is technically outside of what's going on for me. I think that knowing where all the pieces were in the first half of Mushroom Kingdom, even when I wasn't involved with alliances, I think really helped me thrive. And so I want to keep that as long as I can here. Understand that no one can be omniscient. No one can ever know all of the information. But as long as people are telling me things, I can somewhat maneuver. And so I just hope I haven't blown that spot up for myself. Conquer's kind of in the doghouse for me, but I'm not going to put him at the absolute bottom right now just because I still do really enjoy him as a person. I just think he's kind of a player that is frustrating at times. I do think that eyes are starting to turn in his direction, but I don't really want him to be the one to go for the next bit. Kind of tend to be up and down, so I guess we'll just have to see if he gets back up to kind of that bestie status. I'm definitely still dialing it in with him. We're keeping activists bumped but I'm definitely wary. I know that Aerith is definitely pretty fed up with him right now. Um, yeah. Daisy, kind of really over right now after last night. Um, and I think others have noticed, but I don't know if enough have noticed. Um, I may have moved up her target list, but with her making arrangements outside of the winners group, I definitely understand that she's also I'm moving down her priority list, and I feel like at a point she's not going to want. It's interesting, right? Because there is utility to having fellow winners around, but at a point the winners become a monolith in the caste structure. So, be it final 10, final 9, I think that's the point where she's going to want to cut a winner. And based on the fact that she's branching out and doing other alliances with Och, I feel like she's fitting to make me the sacrificial lamb. And so she just came at me at a really unfortunate time with all of the BS about Gelmir being the reason that it was ever a sides thing. And really, I think we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. The first merge round was very unique. And the fact of the matter is, Lendl was holding basically all of the idols in the game, aside from Spyros, which he was always using on himself or Quill. I'm not going to feel bad about not being transparent with her about what our tribe was doing. I told her that it wasn't going to be her. And if that's not good enough for her, I don't know what she expects. I just don't think that's fair. Obviously, I am stellar, even though I was a little bit messy boots last night, hoping to recover. Evie is also a stellar person. Evie was honestly making me feel better than a lot of my allies last night in the lead up to the vote. She was the first one to tell me that Quill threw out my name. We've checked in already this morning. I'm going to try and solidify that bond a bit more going forward. I know that she has close relationships with some of the Lendls, including Daisy, but I'd like to think that she and I, potentially, if Conquer gets exposed and targeted, I would like to think that Evie and myself and maybe even Zagreus could do something. And maybe with my penalty vote, that's enough to make something happen down the stretch. As far as I know, the big hurdles are going to be basically maneuvering around Daisy's extras, and we'll see what Och got in the chest. I'm assuming it's a playable immunity that she can use for a while, a safety without power, something like that. So yeah, I'm starting to look at Evie as somebody that I want to work closely with down the stretch. Somebody that I would like to go deep with. I do think that Daisy is probably playing the cleanest game right now and is probably in the best position to take the crown. There's still a lot of game left to be played, though, with 11 people. So we'll just have to see. But as of right now, I'm feeling very good about Evie. Nathan, I do not trust Nathan. I feel like he would cut my throat in a heartbeat. He was actually my preferred target, him or Sim, last round. But for whatever reason, I mean, I understand why some people felt so strongly that it had to be a Gelmir. But the fact of the matter is, Nate gives me very little. He's kind of an asshole to me in DM. Um, and will just say things that are kind of like, I don't know what the F I'm supposed to do with this dude. Like, he was basically complaining about getting all of the bad categories and majority rules, and then I guess he was kind of complaining to certain people about the fact that I was one of the legends, and Zag may or may have not kind of explained to him some of the Dixie history, or the fact that I'm a pretty well respected player in this particular org community. I mean, I've won several games. I typically do very well. I can count on one hand the number of times that I've not made like the final four in a game. And if you take All Stars games out of that equation, I don't even need a full hand. So then he was like, oh, like after I'd gone to bed, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, LOL. I guess I didn't understand. Like, I don't even remember what he said. Actually, let's bring it up. Here it is. So I said goodnight to him 2 nights ago, and he said, "Goodnight, you're the legend. Sorry if I didn't know your game history, sob sob. I need to learn more of this community before saying shit," which he didn't say really anything to me about what I got. He was more just complaining about the ones that he got and saying that it was all Gelmir's fault for voting together, which there was no collusion, dude. It's in the rules. Like, it was basically, it's what people think the majority is going to say. And you're kind of playing a garbage game. I'm sorry. And so anyway, he was like, I need to learn more of this community before saying shit. Then yesterday, he was like, hey, LOL, out of nowhere. So I was just like, hey, I used one of the zing zing emojis that I use. He didn't reply for a bit. I guess it wasn't as long as it felt, but this just kind of rubbed me the wrong way because it's such a troll response. So he means the emojis, but he's like, those gifs you use, LOL, they're always ugly. And I'm like, you're so, I don't know what to do with that. Like, what is this conversation? Like, why would I want to keep this in the game? And then, how long have you been playing these games for? I don't know, dude. Like, I'm not going to tell you. You're probably going to drag me for having played these games for as long as I have. Like, fuck off. So yeah, not a big fan of that one. Maybe if we'd started the game. He's so weird. He's like, he was one of the first people that talked to me in open comms and was like, I was a big fan of you and your season. I hope we're on a tribe together. It's like, okay, you're talking out of your ass. So he can just go whenever. I do worry, though, that he's going to be in a position to be somebody that gets dragged to the end. But Spyro and I have already talked about this. And if somebody does that, like, call me a bitter juror, but I would absolutely vote for Nate over some of these people at this point. Just out of pure frustration and just being offended by the way that some of these people are handling me. So, Och. Oh, I feel bad for Och and I. I know she's been kind of floating and struggling to find her footing in the game thus far. So I feel bad that I kind of was a little bit passive aggressive last night, confronting her about basically asking her if she was in any groups with certain people. Um, so she's amazing, but one thing about Oach is she's going to play the game and do what she feels like she needs to do to distinguish herself as a strong player in her own right. She's I think we're a lot alike in that regard. We don't like being kind of the one. Maybe that's the problem for Aerith, Oach, and Dixie is that we're all too alike. Like we don't like being the passive person that people bring information to. We like to be the person that is moving and shaking and disrupting the status quo, um, as opposed to letting the game happen around us. So yeah, Spyro and I think we're back to bearable. I mean, he obviously is going to take his husband's side and things, but do think we're in a better just kind of headspace as to what needs to happen in the coming rounds. So I feel like there's at least been some movement from where we were to where we are now. So I'm gonna put him in bearable. Sim, I'm gonna put in can tolerate. I also feel like she wouldn't hesitate to slit my throat though. So really, she would have been another person that I would have probably pushed for last round, but I knew that if I'd pushed for Nate or Sim, that it would have been weaponized against me. And it kind of was weaponized against me by Spyro. Preliminary thoughts, we'd talked about that the night before, but he apparently characterized people, Conquer included, maybe others, that I'd been pushing for Nathan or Sim the entire day when I was literally just minding my business, waiting to see where people would decide between Spyro and Quill and hoping that it would be Quill. And for a while, it didn't seem like it was going to be Quill. But I think, yeah. So all of that is to say that Sim is somebody that I don't know. Like, I would like to get to a better spot, but it's tough, right? Because we played the entire game apart. And I feel like she's probably got plenty that she's locked into, and it's hard to trust her with information. Just because her game style is just so, I don't want to say passive, but it's very calm. It's very wait and see. It's very don't panic. Cool, calm, and collected. Zag is amazing. He just is not as dialed in as a lot of folks. And then I'm going to put that Zero is bearable. I feel like he's been buttering me up a little bit. I need to watch this YouTube video that he sent me about the second Planet of the Apes reboot movie. But obviously he's trying to work with Aerith in this game. It's been pretty much confirmed to me that he's working with Daisy, and he's also got a thing going with Oach. So I don't know if it's just him with respect to Oach and Aerith trying to work with people that were his aunties in the last game that we all played together, but yeah, that's just kind of where it's at. So, including taking myself out of this, it's a pretty even distribution of tiers right now, and we're just gonna have to see what happens here. The final 11, I would guess, depending on immunity, could shape up to be Spyro versus, who knows, maybe Conquer. But after upsetting the apple cart last night, I don't really know. Could easily be me. I feel like I'm always saying that, and I'm probably overly paranoid, but who knows? I'd like to win immunity just as a bucket list item, but I think I'm at peace with the fact that I am not going to be a challenge ace, especially in this cast. So all of that is to say, it's a new day. We're on, by my calculations, the 35th day. And let's see where it goes from here. So Dixie out. Good talk, everybody.